Before the granite industry came to be, Rockport was the Attleboro of Gloucester with very little going on economically. This lasted up until the quarry and granite industry took off, bringing great economic prosperity to Essex County and helping Rockport break off from Gloucester. Halibut Point State Park was the site of the Babson Farm, later known as the Babson Farm Quarry. The quarrying ended there in 1929, and soon rain, runoff, and springs quickly filled the pit with water. To keep their work going, quarrymen kept their working area dry by removing water by hand with a bucket or using a team of oxen. The Babson Farm Quarry was at one point about 60 feet deep. Because the granite in Cape Ann weighed about 168 pounds per cubic foot, moving the stone from the quarry floor to the surface was a very hard task. So the quarrymen came up with a derrick to lift the heavy stones. Derricks were an arrangement of blocks, tackles, and pulleys. The derricks were powered by hand up until the steam engines were available in the 1860s. During the quarry's busiest years, which was around 1910, there were 4 derricks in use here. A dog hole is a single round hole in the face of a piece of granite. The large granite blocks usually had a dog hole on each end to hold the tips of giant hooks called dogs. These large blocks were suspended by cables and chains from a derrick. As the block of granite was being lifted from the quarry, the loop of chain tightened the grasp of the dogs. Once the block reached the surface, it was then moved by oxen, horses, or trained to nearby sheds. In the sheds, the men shaped the blocks into paving blocks, building stone, curbing, or ornamental pieces. In Halibut Point, granite was transported directly to the wharf at Folly Cove, where it was then sent off to its destination. Large iron staples were used to hold a derrick in place. These staples are known as deadmen. It took at least 6 iron cables that were attached to the top of the mast and then anchored to the deadmen to hold a derrick in place. A motion was worked by 2 men who used hammers and drills to produce the rectangular blocks called paving stones. Paving stones were used for surfacing streets and public spaces. Behind the motion is the foundation of a coal-burning power plant that generated steam to run the drills and derricks. Then, behind the foundation, there is the remains of a railroad embankment. In 1910, the Rockport Granite Company bought a steam engine and named it Nella. Nella was used to haul granite from the quarry site to the wharf of Folly Cove, where the stone was then loaded onto sloops that took the stone to markets all around the world. Granite was split by making holes with a flat chisel and then driving flat wedges down into the holes. By the late 1830s, granite splitting was greatly improved. New chisels with shallow V-shaped cutting edges were invented. This tool made circular holes into which half-round shims. A tapered wedge was then driven between them, causing the stone to split. Even though this new process was more efficient, 75% of the large blocks were still splitting crookedly and had to then be moved to the grout pile. The grout pile was a mountain of waste granite pieces dumped there over a period of many years. In 1885, construction of the Sandy Breakwater began off the coast of Rockport. It was being built to provide a safe haven between Boston and Portland for sailing ships. The construction stopped in 1915 due to the lack of continued federal funding and a decline of sailing ships. A lot of the granite from the Babson Farm Quarry was used in the building of the breakwater. Steam-powered drills were invented in the 1880s. During that time, it became possible to cut deeper holes, resulting in the quarry having larger pieces of stone. Granite bollards were set in the shore or on wharfs to secure the lines of the ships. Soon, steam-powered lafts came into use. These lafts could shape rectangular pieces of granite into bollards as well as ornamental columns. The Babson Farm Quarry at Halibut Point closed in 1929. Because of the general economic situation in the country, the Rockport Granite Company went out of business too. After it went out of business, 17 acres on the eastern side of the quarry were purchased and given to the trustees of reservations. The rest of the land was not used until late in World War II. During the war, a fire control tower, which is now the park's visitor center, was made to provide aiming information for the large coastal defense guns that guarded Boston and Portsmouth harbors. In 1956, Halibut Point was purchased by private hands and was opened as a park for 1 season. After many attempts to make the area a residential community, the state purchased 56 acres of the land and opened Halibut Point State Park in 1981.